So the UK came out bottom across our key metrics.
We're going to explore this question of generosity from a few angles today, and a key source in putting this together was work produced by Mariana Hunt. In fact, I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Mariana Hunt. I'm an Associate Director at Fidelity International, a pensions and investment company.
I've been speaking to Mariana about this idea of generosity in state pension systems internationally. What do you mean by generous?
So it's a huge question. To put it really simplistically, we were looking at how much you'd get relative to your salary from the state pension.
We can call this the replacement rate.
How many years you might expect to receive a state pension for.
You do this by measuring the state pension age in each country and then the life expectancy at a specific point.
So I looked at state pension ages if you were born in 1960 and life expectancy for someone age 65 and how much each country spends on state pensions relative to other things that the government spends on. So things like education, defence and so on.
We measure this as spending as a percentage of GDP. So how much of a country's economy is being put towards servicing their state pension? GDP spending is not the same as government spending, and it also doesn't capture the amount committed in personal savings by the population that makes up the total pension picture, which we'll explore later on. But it does give us a relative scale for comparison, just so we can see at a glance what importance countries place on their state pension schemes. How did we rank overall when you did the rankings?
So the UK came out bottom across our key metrics.
And here are Mariana's findings. So let's go through some of this. The UK ranks last in terms of replacement rate at 22%. This is gross, so it's before tax. And we're quite a way off other countries. We're miles from Italy, where the population can count on getting 76% of the average salary from that state pension provision. For the state pension age and life expectancy points, we're in and around everyone else, towards the higher end, and of course, these ages are set to increase. But I think this comparison is more interesting. Looking at the average amount of healthy years in retirement. I don't know about you, but I care more about how long I'll be able to enjoy my life more than the stuff where I'm pretty immobile. The USA has a high retirement age and low healthy life expectancy, which means the average American is getting less than 9 of those so-called golden years. We are similar to Germany and Italy. Japan has a long healthy life expectancy. Canada and France are also out in front, but France really benefits from a low retirement age more than they do from a high healthy life expectancy. Okay, let's look at this final column of how much we spend of GDP. Here the UK looks really stingy, right at the bottom of the pack. But I don't think it should be viewed that way. In fact, I think it should be reversed. We're not at the bottom, we're at the top. By that I mean we're delivering a retirement system that in the main works. I know it's not perfect, but relative to some of our international peers who spend a massive amount of their economy supporting a similar system, look at France and Italy spending 12% of their economy while they face the same pressures we do of an ageing population and a declining birth rate, means that their systems already threaten to cripple their economy if they're not addressed. France is especially exposed due to the high amount that they replace and then the length that they pay it for. In fact, French retirees are unique globally and even in France's history, because they have a higher on-average income than the working population whose taxes pay for their retirement. At a glance, we would all love the French system. Early retirement, high replacement rate. But the trade-off is it's becoming a massive burden for their economy, one they're going to struggle to solve. And a question for all of us to keep in mind when we think about these state systems is, what's more important, generosity or sustainability?
The triple lock is a particularly generous guarantee.
So a quick reminder, the triple lock is the way that we increase the state pension each year. Whichever of these three is the highest, inflation, average earnings, or just a flat 2.5%. I'm often pretty critical of the triple lock. I will say, if the economy is functioning as planned, it could be argued as being pretty sustainable. So in an as-planned economy, inflation would be around the Bank of England's target of 2%. The wage growth of the population or average earnings would be increasing at a rate higher than inflation, so everyone was getting richer. So every year the triple lock would just go up with that average earnings growth. You know, we'd all be pretty good in that sense. But the problem is, we're not pretty good. Since the triple lock was introduced in 2011, inflation and wage growth have been all over the place. And there have been a few years where the 2.5% lock kicked in as well, far from an ideal economy over that period. And in times of economic stress like the ones we've experienced, the ratcheting effect of the triple lock becomes more pronounced. 2022 was the year inflation went mental. Official reports pinned it at 10.1%. The next year then, the state pension went up by that 10.1%, which is the inflation lock on the triple lock. In 2023, following the high inflation year, many workers, rightfully so, said to their bosses, hold on, prices went up about 10% last year, I need a pay rise to stop me going backwards in real terms. Average wage growth in 2023 was around 8.5%. Not enough to cover the inflation rise of the previous year, but it was something, I guess. Then, 2024, when state pension needed to go up, they go, okay, which of these was the highest last year? And it was that wage growth. So the state pension goes up by the wage growth of 8.5%. Can you see what happened there? So the state pension through these triple lock increases went up by inflation, then went up by average wage growth. That average wage growth was designed to compensate workers for the inflation in the previous year. The triple lock basically counted the same economic event twice by going up with the problem and then up with the cure. In a normally functioning economy, the triple lock just tracks earnings. But in times of economic uncertainty that have defined the period that the triple lock has existed in, it becomes quite generous.
Whereas in other countries, they might only increase the state pension by inflation, and they might have a cap on that. So they'll only increase it by a limited amount. And actually, interestingly, I think in Ireland, there's no automatic increase to the state pension. It has to go through the budget, and the amount is set every single budget. So our system isn't necessarily the international norm, and it is likely that it will mean that the UK state pension becomes more generous relative to other countries over time.
I'm not going to turn this into a whole we must stop the triple lock thing. I just want to show you really that while our state pension might be seen as less generous compared to other countries, our system for increasing our state pension is actually one of the most generous on the planet. So if your aim is to get our not so generous state pension to become more generous over time, the triple lock is a really effective tool for that. But what if that was never the plan? This is the Turner Commission report. It was published in 2004 and has shaped the way all of us save for retirement in the UK. Even to this day.
Key elements of what we recommended have stood the test of time very well.
This is a report from the Pensions Policy Institute published in 2025, 20 years later, and they still cite that 2 decades old commission, mentioning that a combination of state pension and auto-enrolment at the current levels, so your state pension and paying 8% into a workplace pension, will get the average earner a 50% replacement rate in retirement. And if you want a higher replacement rate, it's stated that it could be encouraged to pay up to 16% into the work-based schemes. This is not an accident, it's not by chance, this is how our system in the UK has been designed.
So it comes back to the point of you need to realise where the responsibility of funding your retirement lies. Is it with you, the individual, or is it with the state? And for me, the key thing was just reminding people that the onus is really on them.
These tables are produced by the OECD themselves. I'll leave this full report below for you. It's called Pensions at a Glance, but the thing is 236 pages long, so if this is a glance, what the hell is a deep dive? I won't go into it in loads of detail, but table 3.1 on page 147 shows us how different schemes across the world operate. So how they basically combine state and private savings of different forms to reach their end goal of a retirement. And what we see for the UK is we have a very simple design compared to others. We have a basic state pension scheme that's based on contributions, in this case NI contributions, and then a private FDC scheme, which stands for Funded Defined Contribution, or a pension where the amount that you end up with is defined by your contributions as well as investment performance. Our state pension is generous in the sense that everyone who qualifies for it gets it. We don't means test it at the minute, but it's a small amount in comparison to some of the schemes that offer much higher replacement rates in other parts of the world. Really, it serves as a base layer to build off. Of course, there are pension credits as well on top of this, so these are benefits that top up people who fall below a certain income level who maybe rely solely on the state pension. But the desire of policymakers is to get as many people off those benefits as possible and to encourage us to build our own assets, not to rely on the state pension for income. You see that sort of language throughout the pension legislation stretching back for decades, this idea of a base layer or build upon it. Yet Pensions UK, the body that represents the pension industry, did research and 56% of people surveyed said that making sure the state pension was enough to live on should be a top priority. That belief is at complete odds with the way the system is designed. And if you think that the state pension should be enough to live off, you're going to look at this table and you're going to think that we are very stingy indeed. If I think my UK bike should be a French car, I'm going to get rather upset about the fact my bike has 2 wheels and that I have to pedal it. If I see my bike as an intentional design, I might look at the French car and go, well, yeah, might be convenient for now, but it's very expensive to run versus my bike, and long term, the reliability of it is questionable. That thing is definitely going to break down at some point. I mean, it's a French car, right? But I started this interview asking Mariana a question. What do you mean by generous? When Mariana showed me this table and the UK sitting at the bottom, my first reaction wasn't that we were being shortchanged. It was honestly a bit of relief. Because that bottom ranking might be the reason that our system is still standing in 20 years. 2 decades ago, policymakers labelled the state pension as a foundation and then asked individuals in the UK to build on top of it. I think long term, that will be the right call over, say, the French model. The issue we have is we never really told the public clearly enough that that was the deal. And now short-term politics keeps promising more through the triple lock without acknowledging what the costs are, or the very real risk that that shifts our scheme to a place that it was never designed to go. Whether you like the current state pension system or not is up to you, but this is the system we have. We can have whatever system we want. What we can't have, though, is it all, where we spend little on state pension compared to other countries, but still expect it to deliver a very high replacement rate. Or we expect workers who, in large part, fund the state pension through their taxes to pay increasing amounts of tax, while also asking them to pay more into their own private pensions to build up large pots there. I think the most generous thing that policymakers could do is just start saying that out loud.